Hey everybody, this is John from Pioneer Nexus MTG coming at you with the top 5 lists for the month of December 2023. This is kind of a tenuous top 5 list as there really hasn't been a lot of data since the Pioneer bannings, which encompass 2 cards, Karn the Great Creator, as well as Geological Appraiser, and then the unbanning of Smuggler's Copter. Now, the first thing is kind of knocked Mono Green off its pedestal, even though Mono Green has kind of been on the decline. So that deck is no longer currently part of the top 5. There are some people attempting to rectify the problems with that deck, but Karn may have been the knockout blow for that deck being viable for right now. That said, it has a deck that has been banned before and still come back because Rakdos is such a busted card. Geological Appraiser, 1-card combo that happened on turn 3. They just don't want that kind of stuff in the Pioneer format. They did leave, however, Amalia Combo and Quintorius Combo both around. So if you do like Gyruda Combo 1-card version with Quintorius, or if you do like the Amalia kind of Abzan Collected Company nonsense decks that some were a powerhouse or competitive in Modern for some periods of time, like Kitchen Fix Combo, Heliod Combo, etc. The format's still a little bit of combo in that regard, but the rest of the format is, unfortunately, a little bit rather bland, with one exception that we're going to talk about here right off the bat. Now, I'm going to kind of include these as 1A and 1B, and that is the different variances of Arclight Phoenix. Now, you're going to see a lot of the cards are the same. The basic difference is how much cantripping you're doing, how much counterspelling you're doing, and are you relying on Lightning Axe or are you relying on Bitter Triumph? Now, Bitter Triumph was a new card from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which is a nice split card. It does have downsides of pay 3 life or discard a card. Well, when you're a deck that has Arclight Phoenix Treasure Cruise, discarding cards are not really that much of a liability, and you sometimes can afford to take 3 damage. This was the instant speed answers this deck was looking for to Geological Appraiser and Quintorius, as well as having an instant speed answer in addition to Fatal Push or Fire Impulse to Amalia. So you kind of have the split card that can deal with Planeswalker as well as the creatures you need to deal with, and plays quite nicely with the rest of the deck. The rest of the deck, nothing too crazy. Consider Opt, Sleight of Hand, Picklock Prankster, and Ledger Shredder, as well as Treasure Cruise, all kind of normal fare for either variant of Phoenix, as well as Arclight Phoenixes to bring back. Picklock Prankster fills the graveyard, finds your key draw spells or removal spells. Ledger Shredder helps with conniving, putting your Phoenixes in the yard so you don't always need another discard outlet. Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, these kind of go into any black midrange deck, and we're definitely playing a black midrange deck. Sideboard options vary by effectiveness, but you know, effectively you're seeing a bunch of the powerful black cards with things like Go Blanket Duress, Ashiok, Collective Brutality, different sweepers, and some light permission, which is nothing unusual in the Phoenix decks. Now, taking a look at the blue-red version, the more traditional version, the 2 main differences with this is, number 1, obviously the removal spell suite. You're going to see Fire Impulse, Lightning Axe versus Fatal Push, Bitter Triumph. Both have their pluses and minuses. Fire Impulse is your Fatal Push, Lightning Axe is your Bitter Triumph. Fiery Axe or Lightning Axe not target Planeswalkers, so that is something relevant. The other thing is you play some light permission rather than a card like Thoughtseize. And the other thing is you have the ability to find Galvanic Iteration, Temporal Trespass, which allows you to have this kind of pseudo combo finish that the Grixis version is kind of lacking. Plus, you don't really have to splash for that 3rd color to cast your Arclight Phoenixes. However, you're generally not looking to cast these anyway, so it's a little bit of a downside for the blue-black version, but they do run a couple of shock lands to be able to play these Phoenixes. And then the sideboard, you have some different options, most notably access to things like Fable, Young Pyromancer, Crackling Drake, you know, and you play a little bit more of the blue permission. But effectively, at their core, they're very similar decks, just have different tools to what they're trying to accomplish and play a little bit of a different game. Some have to play like permission, others play the Thoughtseize plays a little bit more into your wanting to cantrip game plan. The other deck that could argue that it is the top deck of the format outside of the Phoenix variants, which I think combined have the highest meta percentage, and that is Ratus Midrange. deck that has, for most of the last 18 months, really since the banning of Winota and the reestablishment of mono green, it's really been one of the top 2, top 3 decks in the format. It just gets to play all the good red-black cards that have been dominating standard. The newer innovations, obviously the addition of Smuggler's Copter. Now, Smuggler's Copter fits kind of into what the deck was doing. The deck was already playing Reckoner Bankbuster, so this just kind of adds to its abilities, as well as having a decent 2-drop to pair with Blood Tithe Harvester, which it was sometimes lacking, and then it just gets to play a glut of good 3-drops. A couple Shoulderids, Arcfiend Dross, some versions just play the 3rd Shoulderid. Basically, it's red-black mid-range. It has good aggressive starts, it has good interaction. There are a few decks that can still go over it, so decks like Enigmatic Fires come to mind, as well as perhaps an upswing you might see in the Omnath deck with a lack of mono green to really punish it. Remains to be seen how this deck will shake out, but still one of the top decks in the format and probably will continue to be for some period of time. And it, along with the Phoenix decks, severely punish creature-based decks in the format. New kid on the block that didn't get banned, Amalia Combo. The very simple explanation is Amalia plus Wild Growth Walker equals triggers. They feed off of each other until Amalia hits 20 power. Rest the board except for the Amalia, swing, game over. In order to do that, you need some way to gain life, either Luminarch Veteran, Prosperous Innkeeper. Then you have a bunch of cards to find your missing pieces. If you don't want to win through the combat step, Dina Soul Steeper is also a way to do this. In each one of those loops as you're gaining life, your opponent's losing life. And obviously you can kind of get the infinite loop with Amalia once you get it over 20 with another Wild Growth Walker. Get infinite power creature and kind of win the game that way. And then the sideboard, a bunch of bullets for different matchups, is not uncommon in these green X Toolbox decks. I could go through all the different things, but basically you have some anti-control stuff, some anti-combo stuff, some Leyline of the Void, some interaction, and basically things to stop Lotus Field combo and to interact with the combo or the over-the-top mid-range decks a little bit for you to buy time, whole bunch of ways to rebuy your combo pieces. That's Amalia Combo, the new kid on the block, but certainly one of the more powerful decks currently in the Pioneer format. A deck that got a huge boost with the presence of all of the various combo decks, and that being Blue-White Control. Basically, any deck that folded to a single counterspell was a good reason for this deck to come back. It got a new piece of interaction in the form of Get Lost, much in the same vein as Fateful Absence, except for you're giving your opponent 2 map tokens as opposed to a guaranteed draw. So, the rest of the deck, good sweepers, good card advantage, Wandering Emperor, Teferi. Nothing fancy here. The majority of the versions currently are playing a 60-card variant with no Lotus Field. Lotus Field is kind of a different deck. It's really, the Blue-White X Lotus Field decks are really more like Blue-White Tron than they are Blue-White Control, but this is certainly a powerful deck with a lot of different tools in the sideboard, and it's a deck that's been kind of hanging around the top 5 for quite a while. Fairly reasonably positioned against decks like Phoenix. Struggles a little bit against Rakdos in the post-board games. Okay against the creature decks, especially when you're playing Temporary Lockdowns, Supreme Verdicts, and Farewells into a field full of humans and Convoke and etc. As long as you can interact with them a couple of times in the early game, your sweeper is kind of your way to close the door. And that is Blue-White Control, our number 4 deck this month. And number 5, another deck that is severely benefiting from Smuggler's Copter, and that is Gruul Vehicles. Now this is a deck that used to basically be primarily to hunt Rakdos midrange. Still has a lot of the same things, your early elves, your Smuggler's Copters now, your Bone Crusher Giant, Reckless Stormseeker, Asika's Chariot. A Crowan War, I'm not sure is as necessary with Mono Green not really being part of the format, but it also plays into the Huntsman's Redemption, which makes a beast, allows you to search for creatures that you're missing, and then pumps your team. And then you have some random bullets. Voldiran Thrillseeker also can be very threatening. If you've hit your opponent a couple times in the early game, this card can threaten to just win the game on the spot. Sideboard, you get to play a bunch of either answers to things, slow down your opponent's combo decks, which are your biggest problem. bring in some removal spells for your key matchups, and then bring in some threats for that control can have difficult times dealing with. That is basically Gruul Midrange. Now, other decks you should be aware of in the format: Rakdos Sacrifice, Spirits, kind of. Enigmatic Fires is certainly a thing. Quintorius Combo is certainly a deck. How good that one is in the meta kind of remains to be seen. Really hasn't put up any particularly good finishes, as the combo is quite easy to stop once you're aware of it. Then you have Lotus Field Combo, Boros Convoke. You have the Waste Not deck that's been floating around. You have Angels, you have Heroic. There's a lot of different decks that exist in the format and have done well over the course of the last year or so. But these are kind of the decks that are the best currently. Obviously, they benefit some from Smuggler's Copter. Decks like Phoenix, Phoenix is, I think, the riskiest deck in the format right now, simply because, well, Wizards is trying really hard to keep Treasure Cruise and, to a lesser extent, Dig Through Time unbanned in this format. They're just really dangerous cards. Is it Phoenix? Obviously, a little bit of a tempo Xerox deck. And the blue-black Phoenix deck is basically Rakdos Midrange-esque, except you get to play Treasure Cruise. So both of those decks could both become a problem, especially with the lack of mono green to kind of go over the top. Treasure Cruise is a heck of a drug, and it's dangerous right now. Smuggler's Copter, I'm glad to see it back. Yes, it fits in a lot of decks, but I do think it is overall healthy for the format. I think it helps out the aggressive decks the most, which are the decks that need it, although it's also slotted into 2 of the mid-range decks, so shrug. Yeah, the format is evolving a little bit, but I don't know that it is good that a deck like Phoenix and Rakdos Midrange are at the top of the heap, but once again, Treasure Cruise is dangerous, so remains to be seen if that deck will, if it continues to increase its meta percentage, kind of like what Rakdos Scam did in the modern format. I could easily see it getting hit with a ban. But for right now, it's hovering in a decent percentage. Amalia Combo, another deck that is probably on the watch list a little bit. And then obviously Atlanta is coming up here pretty soon. That will actually, I believe Atlanta is this coming weekend. So remains to be seen if anything gets banned. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like Pioneer content. And hope to see you in the new year of 2024.